What's going on, guys? Jason Phillips here, owner and founder of the Nutritional Coaching Institute. And today we are talking about how to set up your fat loss calorie calculations. So before we jump into it, do me a favor, give us a quick thumbs up on this video. Make sure you're subscribed. And of course, click that link in the description so that we can send you your copy of the Nutrition Coach's Cheat Sheet completely for free. This is a collection of all the information I've used the last 16 years to create results at the highest level, and also what I've used to help other coaches scale their impact and, of course, their income. The question is, how do we set up our calorie calculations to ultimately achieve fat loss? Because we know if you eat too little, that's not going to work out. But if you're not in enough of a deficit, that's not going to work out either. Really quickly, I'm going to give you the science and I'm going to give you the application, because that's what we do here at NCI, education and application. First and foremost, yes, you need to be in a deficit. How do we establish our deficit? Well, we have to know our total daily energy expenditure, and that TDEE is comprised of four things. First, your basal metabolic rate. Second, the thermic effect of feeding. Third, your exercise activity. And fourth, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So we just understand what all of those account for in terms of calories. We add them up. That is your maintenance calories. But there's one minor problem. All of those things are extremely unquantifiable. It is very difficult to know exactly what your basal metabolic rate is, meaning the calories that you burn at rest. Even the calculators or the machines that supposedly give you your BMR, they're not very accurate. It's very difficult to know, or almost impossible to know, what the thermic effect of the food that you're consuming is. It's very difficult to track the number of calories that you're outputting during your exercise. And of course, it's almost impossible to know the number of calories you're burning from doing things like fidgeting, walking, getting your steps in. Okay, so if we don't know those numbers, where do we start? Well, we use something called a formula. We use the basal metabolic rate formula first, and we multiply that times an intensity factor. How do we find the BMR? There's formulas like the Harris-Benedict equation, the Katz-McArdle, the Mifflin-St. Jeor. They all work. What I tell coaches all the time is stick to the same formula every time that you're doing this calculation. You know, they continue to evolve. I know for me, for the longest time, I used Harris-Benedict. I think Katz-McArdle is probably a little bit more accepted today. But again, you can't go wrong with any of them. As long as you use the same one each time, you're going to take that number and multiply it times an intensity factor. The intensity factor scale is 1.2 to 1.9. All right, 1.2 being the least intensity, 1.9 being the most intensity. Now, this number gives you maintenance calories. From there, we're going to subtract 500 to 750. That's going to give us the appropriate start point for your fat loss. Now, that sounds like a lot of information, a lot of science. So let me make it even easier for you, because really what most people are going to use is just the multiplier formula. And what I've done here is I've listed out fat loss, maintenance, and muscle gain, and I've given you two different ranges. Now, in classical multipliers, what we would see is fat loss would be your body weight in pounds times 10 to 12. That's going to give you your fat loss. To maintain, you're going to take your body weight in pounds and multiply it times 13 to 15. That's going to give you your calories for maintenance. And to gain muscle, you're going to take your body weight in pounds, multiply it by 16 or above. That's going to give you the number of calories you intake for muscle gain. Our world has evolved, and I believe that Western culture has evolved since these formulas or this multiplier system was put in. And I can tell you, real life in the trenches, those numbers seem to have grown. Typically, I'll start a fat loss client anywhere body weight times 10 times 12 to 14. If I'm looking to help them maintain or maybe even recomp, I'm gonna look at body weight times 15 to 16. And if it's somebody that wants to gain, we're looking at body weight times 17 plus. The reason for that, and we'll touch on it later, is the stress profile. I believe that the training modalities, the training intensities in Western culture have increased. We need to account for that with the number of calories that we give, as well as just the overall stress profile of individuals living in today's world. Once we understand calories, now we want to step into protein. Protein's relatively simple. We are going to take your body weight in pounds. Again, so for anybody international watching this, convert your kilos to pounds. We're going to take body weight in pounds, and we're going to take 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound. That's going to be your daily intake. If you're getting more resistance training in, you're probably going to be on the higher end. If you're lower on the activity scale or lower on the end of resistance training, you're going to take in a little bit less. For extremely overweight or obese individuals, we are going to use your target body weight for this calculation. Or if you know your lean body mass, that's acceptable as well. But for most people, we're going to use your target body weight if you have a significant amount of weight to lose. So once we know calories, once we know protein, obviously what's left is carbs and fats. And the truth is, despite all the calculators out there, the ratio does not matter. Science continues to tell us if diets are you designed properly, if calories are accounted for properly, if protein has been properly distributed, then carbs and fats will not matter. And what I'm going to tell you to do when you're determining your ratio is, number one, what is your preference? What will you stick to? Do you like carbs? Great. Eat carbs, have less fats. Or do you like fats and have less carbs? That's fine. But really understand the overall stress that you have in your life, okay? And when we look at stress, everything is a stressor. Your calorie deficit in and of itself is a stressor. Your training modality is a stressor. Your lack of sleep, your relationship stress, your life stress, all of those things start to add up. And so if you have a significant amount of stress, you're going to need more carbohydrate in your life because you're living on that cortisol surge almost all the time. You're living in that sympathetic nervous system state, you're living in that fight or flight mindset, and we're gonna need that carbohydrate to help attenuate that cortisol response. But if you're relatively low stress, if you're not doing glycolytic exercise and you're simply trying to perhaps just live a little bit longer while losing a little bit weight, then maybe you're gonna opt for more fats and less carbohydrates, all right? And so the overall goal here is understanding, number one, it really doesn't matter according to science, but number two, it really probably should be associated with your levels of stress. If you have more stress, we're gonna have more carbs. If you have less stress, we're gonna have less carbs and more fats. So one more time, we're going to figure out your calories. We don't have to use the complex daily energy expenditure equation. We're just gonna use the multiplier system. We're gonna get you the right amount of protein. We're gonna match up your carbs and fats relative to the amount of stress in your life. You're gonna stay consistent, you're gonna stay compliant, and of course, you're gonna choose impact over everything.